here. Yeah, it looks like we're live on X.
Yeah.
Looks like we are.
Let's double check, see if YouTube's good.
I don't know how to tell actually. View your channel.
There
Yeah, it
is a
does.
live tab.
Yeah, it looks. It shows on our homepage anyway.
There we go. This is not the greatest live stream. This is just a test. Nice to have this rolling, and I guess for us to be able to unpack certain topics in real time. So I guess I don't want to talk about the tariffs because we're going to talk about stuff tomorrow.
Indeed, with a special guest that
Special guest,
that our fans are familiar with.
a guest who occasionally gets spicy, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to bring up. I was kind of musing on some ideas of. In the U.S., we're seeing DEI getting dismantled more by force through the executive orders, and then Canada, we have no such thing. And I'm curious on like what will happen as there's more pushback. Well, it's like in the United States, it's you're not going to be able to call it DEI, so they're going to either rename or try to like sidestep it some way.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious, like, what are the pressures? Like, how's that going to translate into Canada? Because I feel like these frameworks are very much inbuilt, and they've started from the universities, and these HR trained individuals are the ones upholding a lot of the DEI with their body of bullshit literature.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like in some ways, I'm optimistic about the DEI shift potentially, but I don't know if it's going to happen as quickly or as cleanly as I think some are thinking.
Well, I mean, I think I'm blanking right now, but I know for sure there are a few. I don't know, like maybe university or university adjacent institutions they're saying that they're, closing DEI offices and job positions and stuff, but a lot of them are just renaming, like you say, or there are even some institutions that are doubling and tripling down on their initiatives. I don't think Canada has. I mean, I'm of two minds of it because it's a good question because there are, sort of, as goes the US, so goes, the rest of the Western world, so that it could just kind of by osmosis kind of filter down to our general cultural zeitgeist, and we could see a move away from it. But then what's kind of been made clear the last few days here in the wake of the, again, we're not going to talk about it, but the tariff announcements, is this whole like Team Canada horse shit that, there's Andy Lee was talking about it, a couple other another friend of the channel, and a few others have been talking about how like Canadians have a long storied history of just identifying in the negative against, like, defining themselves by the fact that they're not Americans. So I would be curious to know if we see a doubling and a tripling down at a national level, just to say, hey, we're not like Trump in the US, even though, generally speaking, the people are very similar. We share a lot of the same ways of living and same general ideas as most Americans, I would say.
The TDS could even amplify it here in Canada because uniting over we're not the bad orange man up here. They could say, well, look how terrible and how racist of a place it is in the States now without DEI. And that's why we need DEI in Canada. And that's why we need to ramp it up. Like it could go the other direction.
Yeah, it could. It's a very it's a tough thing because I don't see us having the political will that the US has. Because I saw that, we viewed it immediately in how badly Poilievre fumbled the messaging from the conservatives. He could have easily been, you know, he could have said what he was supposed to say, which was, "Hey, let's strengthen the border. Let's stop the fentanyl. Let's stop the illegals." You know, let's just do what Trump asked us over a month ago, 2 months ago, just about. Uh, but he kind of parroted the same kind of fake, like tough guy routine that the Trudeau liberals were pulling, and it was just sort of unappealing. So yeah, I don't see, you know, Canadians have a long history of you know trying to appear moderate and, as Gadsad might say, like employ suicidal empathy in how we approach these sort of issues. So I just don't see it. I don't really see it happening to the same degree, and I think which is a shame, because I think it kind of needs to. Like, I think watching what Trump is able to do with executive orders is pretty. I'm pretty envious of it actually.
But with it being an executive order, will it be undone in 4 years?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're sort of relying on. I think a lot of the steps that they're taking, and a lot of this, like, how heavy handed the EOs have been so far, they're sort of, I think, banking on a JD Vance presidency, like potentially getting another 4 to 8 years out of this. Which, there was some talk previously of, like, oh, who is it going to be? Like, is Vivek going to be okay with, because obviously the idea is going to be to run JD as the presidential candidate, knowing that Trump can't run again, and having him already be in the vice presidential office for 4 years. But, is Vivek going to be okay being, a VP potentially candidate, or some other, Secretary of State or something, and then waiting another potentially 8 years for his shot? But now I mean, I don't think there's any real consideration of that right now. I think they're just they're planning on having another, potential, decade plus of being able to ride this. And if they get the results out of it that they're, it's sort of at least hoping to get with the DOGE, it may be an easy ride for them. There may not be. I don't think that the Democratic Party has the will currently to get their house in order in time to really mount any significant challenge. I mean, 4 years is a long time, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, so you may see the same. Hopefully, in Canada, you have the same kind of thing as if the Liberals get out. With them will be tied some of these ideas of, let it be the DEI and like these outwardly discriminatory practices, and maybe the obsession with kind of the gender ideology, that might be tied to, like, well, these are dying ideologies with a dying party.
Yeah.
And you may have that still tied together in association, but that will also require the Conservatives to, like, really speak up and take a hard stand on these, and not just, like, poke their heads above water when it's convenient.
Yeah. Yeah. And not just be like the historical, like, I don't know if we have any Americans watching right now or who will be watching this, but like our Conservative Party is well to the left of the Republican Party, like, or I'm sorry, of the Democrat Party. Like, they're still, on the grand scheme of thing, are a very left of center party. So it's not like, we have a real any real risk in Canada of having a modern MAGA movement in this country. It's just not in us at the moment, unfortunately. So sorry, there's a fire alarm in the background, but
That'll happen.
Why don't you talk for a second to the people and go make sure my apartment's not burning down?
Yeah, good to check these things. So we're also seeing a few more, like, protests pop up, in or not even protests, like a few protesters uh, saying like, "We'll deport them. They must go." And we've seen some like counter protests as well. And I'm curious if that will start ramping up and to what extent. Um, to what extent that will grow. And these protests, I feel like they're always speaking to some of the ideas that people have, but they get misrepresented. So, or they get misrepresented, and often they're painted like, well, if somebody says, um, yeah. So with these, so no fire,
What did I miss? No, my wife just told me to tell our viewers that it's just her cooking. It's not it's not a fire.
not a fire yet. The
Yeah,
night
yeah.
is young.
What did I
Yes,
miss?
I was basically just pointing out that we have seen a few different protesters pop up and like let it be the like deport them all or they must go
Mm,
home, and then we've had counter protesters as well,
yeah,
and
right.
they do speak to some of these sentiments. And on one side, it speaks to people worried about endless immigration. So that's
Yeah.
one side of things. And then the other side is, well, the people counter protest and saying diversity is our strength are the ones fully encapsulated by this DEI mentality of like, well, we must equalize outcomes and it's our moral duty to extend a helping hand and welcome everybody in. And
Hmm.
so you see these kind of polar opposites in these views.
Yeah, yeah. And there was a people were noticing that on the it was a fairly small turnout for the deport them all kind of thing, and I'm not fully convinced that it wasn't a some sort of operation.
It gets very convenient.
Yeah.
Like it turns into a very convenient set of CBC articles.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
Just prior to an inauguration, right? Yeah, it's a bit of a yeah, it's a bit convenient for me, um but people were noticing that in the counter protest, the diversity is our strength protests, not a Canadian flag to be seen, eh? Just trans flags, gay flags, Palestine flags. That's I don't know how many Palestinians are in Edmonton, but it can't be much to. But it's just like it's a interesting observation that it seems to be that the um, the choices are either you're a proud Canadian or you're a sensitive progressive liberal who wants to welcome diversity. Like it couldn't possibly be there couldn't possibly be some shade in between there. You're either a Nazi or a or an ally, right?
yeah, they are incapable of a nuanced view
Yeah. Yeah.
in that way. And even like we're still running the issue of like they're not representing their position very well. Like
Mm.
it's the all the leftists in North America who are taking whatever legitimate concerns of the Palestinian people or the legitimate cases of, let it be like the potential war crimes in Gaza, and they are making it very easy for them to be dismissed because they're acting completely idiotic. Like
Yeah.
they are not making themselves look good. So I feel like they don't fully understand the optics of them just being idiots in Canada and like what that's they're not helping their cause. So I feel like it's more self-serving than it is them actually making a difference. They are,
Yeah. It's performative.
yeah, performative virtue signaling. They care about doing the good thing and signaling that they are doing the good thing.
Yeah, I don't know that you would be able to have necessarily a nuanced any kind of like really interesting or uh, enlightening conversation with any of these people. I don't think that they
I
have.
try. I try all the time,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised at how they are unable to. Like I try to at least give them the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah.
and then like ask, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'm open to being I would love for them to show me like a little bit of nuance, or for them to like actually either steel man the other side or do any of that, but they don't. And so my hope's not the highest that way. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's only so many. I I don't know how it's not more uh, noticeable that there's it only ever goes one way. Like it only ever works. There is never a conservative voice, like, or any sort of like dissident type of conservative voice is never at risk of ever being legitimately in good faith offered a conversation from a leftist media outlet or commentator on Twitter or wherever, any sort of news outlet, where you constantly, it doesn't take any searching. It's like you're constantly seeing invitations for people to. It's like it's from a, even if nothing else, from a like a competitive or challenge sort of standpoint, like come, like, let me, I want to feel smarter than you or whatever. At least it's like, at least the offer is made, even if it's not like, even if it's in a competitive kind of way, like, like I'm imagining like the online equivalent of Steven Crowder or Charlie Kirk at a,
change my mind.
yeah,
like,
or like,
actively
debate, an active sort of debate challenge. Like at least the attempt is being made at a conversation. So
and we've mentioned this before, that the left they will keep on narrowing what they're accepting
yeah,
of what you're able to like either discuss or talk about, or what opinions you're allowed to have through media. And if you have an opinion outside of that, they won't invite you back. But
yeah,
those people want to, like, this is how we have a whole group of left of center commentators and intellectuals who have not been invited back on any left mainstream programs, so that now they talk to somebody in the middle or on the right, and then that's used as evidence of, here, that's why we can't invite you back,
yeah,
because
yeah,
because you're on the right now, you're right adjacent, or you're platforming, you're
yeah,
amplifying these terrible people on the
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's like how Dave Smith describes how like liberal news outlets uh at play at like attempting to talk about the other side is they'll invite another liberal on and ask them what the conservative response to some issue would be, instead of just asking a conservative in the first place, because it's like, I don't know. But
Might as well get it from the source, but that
well,
doesn't
yeah, but if
happen.
they get it from the source though, then they risk having a compelling argument being heard on their platform, and that's antithetical to the messaging. Because yeah, like you say, it's, they legitimately, I don't know if it's legitimate all the time, but they will view the even the expressing, like it's, if they view it in terms of good and evil, I mean, you can't, it's not a matter of like having two competing ideas in the marketplace. It's a, it's a matter of good versus evil. So that's, you can't, if you're a good person, you can't let evil even risk propagating, right? Because
Yeah,
they view themselves as the gatekeeper of evil.
yeah, exactly. So that's something we can definitely unpack a little bit more in the future. But I feel
Yeah,
like as a test, this is a good test.
I think so. Yeah, a good 20 minutes. We got yeah, I was keeping track. We had a maximum of 7 viewers, so that's very nice for a first stream.
Nice to have a couple just poke their heads in, and
Yes, thank
we'll
you for
see
watching.
how the comments and or some of the interactions happen as we do these more. But
Yeah,
yeah, tomorrow we have Marty up north joining us. We're going to unpack some of the information
spoilers.
about tariffs.
Yeah,
Well, I think spoiling it for six people is not the worst. So.
I expect all 6 of you back. 5 now. Yeah, that's sweet. Okay, man. Well, yeah, thanks for setting this up. We'll do this again tomorrow, and yeah, looks like we're good.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, my friend.
Cool. Cheers, buddy. See ya.